We're celebrating the career of a man who, I think, was a genius, plain and simple. So take your seats. For Stop the World, it's Anthony Newley.
If I had to sum up Tony Newley, it would be that he was the most complete performer, the man with the most talents and good at everything.
He was an actor.
The thing about Tony is he was always good to watch, you know. In show business, that really is what divides the men from the boys.
He was a singer.
Gonna build a mountain.
He sang songs. As Terry Wogan would say, he bit lumps out of them.
Tony could give meaning to a song better than any other singer I have ever seen.
He was a writer-composer.
Oh, no wonderful day like today.
Why isn't he more worshipped? You look at that songbook and you think, that's Cole Porter. That is Irving Berlin. That is Roger Snipes. That is sensational show songs.
He was a lyricist.
Goldfinger, he's the man with the Midas touch.
He was a recording star.
You want Bernie?
I'm starving.
Want some chicken?
Yes, please.
You can have that.
Ta. Here, have you got any salt, Glad?
Yeah.
Hello, Dick.
Aren't you eating, Dickie?
No, I forgot to pack something.
You can have this if you like.
Oh.
If you say you love me.
Do you mind?
If I say I love you, do you mind? Make an idol of you, do you mind? If I shower you with kisses, if I tell you, honey, this is how I think of heaven, do you mind? Oh, how I like to whisper sweet nothings in your ear, nothings that were meant for my love alone to hear. If I say I love you, do you mind?
Do you mind?
Make an idol of you, do you mind? If I shower you with kisses, if I tell you, honey, this is how I think of heaven, do you mind? Oh, how I'd like to whisper sweet nothings in your ear, nothings that were meant for my love alone to hear me. If I say I love you, do you mind, baby? Make an idol of you, do you mind? If I shower you with kisses, if I tell you, honey, this is how I think of heaven, do you mind? Do you mind? Do you mind? Do you know?
Glad you're all right. Oh, yes, I'm fine, apart from having broken my leg in half a dozen places.
Listen, I think you better sit down and we'll see if you've heard anything.
I want to see Mr. Marsh. I'm going to claim on this. Industrial...
He was a Broadway star.
Who can I turn to when nobody needs? My heart wants to know, and so I must go where destiny leads me. With no star to guide me, and no one beside me, I'll go on my way, and after the day, the darkness will hide me. maybe tomorrow I'll find what I'm after. I'll throw off my sorrow, beg, steal or borrow my share of laughter. With you I could learn to, with you on a new day. But who can I turn to if you turn away? With no star to guide me and no one beside me, I'll go on my way, and after the day, the darkness will hide me. And maybe tomorrow I'll find what I'm after. I'll throw off my sorrow, beg, steal or borrow my share of laughter. With you I could learn to, with you on a new day. But who can I turn to if you maybe tomorrow I'll find what I'm after. I'll throw off my sorrow, beg, steal or borrow my share of laughter. With you I could learn to, with you on a new day. But who can I turn to if you
Just once in a lifetime.
We went backstage and Tony was loving it. The Kid from Hackney on Broadway. Fabulous.
Everything he did, he was good at.
Why can't I fall in love?
The English have produced a few stellar people like that, and the names, as we all know Ivor Novello, we all know Noel Coward, but Tony Newley is also one of them.
I thought he was incredibly brilliant, incredibly clever, magnetic, a great talent.
We should be very proud of him. He was British through and through, and I loved him very much, and I still miss him.
See what I mean? Genius. Sadly, Newley died in 1999, aged 67. Like many of the greats, he was a complex man. So in this series, we'll try to capture what made him tick. You'll hear a previously unbroadcast Newley interview, rare recordings, and lots of suitably showbiz stories from the people who knew him, worked with him, and, like me, worship him. But let's start with Newley, the pop star. Newley was born Anthony George Newley in 1931 in Hackney, East London. It was, clichés aside, a tough start in life. Garth Bardsley is Newley's biographer.
He was illegitimate, born into poverty in the East End of London. His mother moved to Scotland with a man she married called Ron Gardner, so for much of his childhood he was fatherless, motherless, lived with a variety of aunts and uncles and cousins. It was a tough life, a very tough life in a very tough area.
Like thousands of other children, the war led to Newley being evacuated from London, and it was an experience that made a lasting impression on him.
The second time that I was evacuated, it was with my cousin and a friend to the home of an old music hall entertainer, still in his 60s when we were billeted on him in Morecambe in Lancashire, George Cornelius Pescott. And as a man who played the piano and wrote songs, he seemed absolutely marvellous to me. I mean, he's a legend, and he had my cousin and I performing songs and singing in the Band of Hope. And I think that first applause, that first pleasing others, must have started there.
Newley's dreams of a showbiz career didn't take long to come true. His big break came as a teenager. He was cast as the Artful Dodger opposite Alec Guinness and Robert Newton in Oliver Twist. During the next decade, he became a regular face in British films. Then, in 1959, his career took a new, unexpected direction.
I'm the king. Monday, my baby doll gets so busy, buzzing around just like a honeybee. She looks so neat and sugar pie, washing my Slim Jim tie, just scrubbing away, just scrubbing away. She's gonna make me like a king.
It had to happen as it's happened before to those other mooning, crooning, temperamental idols of our 20th century. The call to arms that has nothing to do with blondes, brunettes, or redheads.
Here you are, your next booking. The British Army. The Queen wants you.
Oh, you mean a royal command?
Well, yeah, if you like to put it that way. You've been called up.
This is a camp that is mighty tough, where the marching men are made. But I am a guy who doesn't dig that stuff, and I'm idle on parade.
Up, Jackson in the books, up.
Quiet, you idle man.
Quiet, you idle man.
You're a mess, Jackson. He's got a tear in his trousers. They're idle. His trousers are idle. Put him in the book.
Idle trousers, stop.
You're a horrible little animal. Now, what are you?
I'm a horrible little animal, sir.
Louder so they can all hear you.
I'm a horrible little animal, sir.
Louder!
I'm a horrible little animal, sir.
William Bendix as the square-bashing Sergeant Major, allergic to idle idols on parade. Anthony Newley, the rock-a-boogie boy himself, in the Army, in the groove, and in dead trouble.
That's the way to use a guitar, man.
A film called Idle on Parade did it for him, really. Up to then, he'd been playing sort of comic characters, Cockney lads or Cockney helpers or strange little bits and bobs. But it was Idle on Parade that was meant to be a story about a kind of English Elvis in the army and national service. And it was Newley's suggestion that they should have some songs in it, of course, so they agreed. And they got Len Praverman and Jerry Loudon to write some popular songs for it. And Newley went away and wrote 2 songs of her own. And what was really extraordinary about this, they released the songs on an extended play disc. And overnight, from being a comic actor that everybody knew, and he was really quite very big in England at that time in Britain, he suddenly became a pop star.
This is a camp that is mighty tough, where the marching men are made. But I am a guy who doesn't dig that stuff, and I'm idle on parade. Come on, fellas, join in. There is a man, a Sergeant Major Lush, and he has got to be obeyed.
Yeah!
And in a voice just like a little thrush, he says, I'm idle on parade. Now when they gave me a rifle, well, they went too far. I'm much better off when I got a guitar. I told the CEO that I want to be sent. He sent me to a place where I could repent. When I was a free...
Impressionable teenagers suddenly had a new hero. Among them, Bill Kenwright, today a West End theatre producer.
This is a camp that is a mighty tough... Oh, it's wonderful. I love it. Saw it twice. Love the songs. Can sing. Know the breaths between the lines of each song.
Songwriter Don Black.
I remember that movie. I remember how he shot up the charts, and he was terrific in that. But to me, it was just the start. You could see what he was going to be. It's like if you look at early Sinatra movies, you know, you look at Sinatra in Anchors Away or anything, and you could see there's a genius there. And the same with Newley. In Idle on Parade, there was a freshness about it. There was a freshness, that's a good word, about everything he did.
I've waited so long, a lifetime it seems, for someone to step right out of my dreams. All that an angel could be, and meant for only me. Play me a tune, haunting and blue. Tell me of dreams that never come true. Sing me a lonely song till she comes along.
Idle on Parade's big hit song, I've Waited So Long, a number 3 hit in the UK. Pop stardom was certainly a shock to Newley, the actor. Here he is doing the obligatory BBC interview at the time.
Tony, this film that you've just finished making, Idle on Parade, now this by accident has sort of thrown you into the world of rock and roll.
Yes, it has
stardom.
indeed. And
What briefly are your reactions to that?
well, I'm as surprised as you might expect. Very, very surprised. It's a wonderful world, really. I mean, I feel slightly like Alice in Wonderland still, but you see, it's the appreciation of the kids, which is really, don't let anybody kid you, is wonderful. What is amusing is that I've been in the business for 14 years as an actor, and have, you know, if I may say so myself, made a fair living at it, and given good, sensible performances, but on the strength of this one record alone, I am now known. I am what you might call a star, which is fantastic. In fact, a record has put a name to my face.
Aside from a good singing voice, Newley possessed other attributes that appealed to teenagers, particularly the girls. Petula Clark had known him since their days as child stars.
Well, I just thought he was very cute. I mean, at that age, he was cute, he was handsome, and so amazingly talented, and that's a very attractive thing. I was just in awe of him.
Over and over, I said that I loved you. Over and over, what more can I do? Over and over, my friend says I'm a fool. But over and over, I'll be a fool for you. 'Cause you good, you walk, talk, smile, charm, laugh. Plus you got a great big heart. What more can I do? 'Cause you good, you walk, you talk, you smile, you charm and laugh, and plus you got a great big heart. So over and over, well I'll be a fool for you. Now over and over, what more can I do? Over and over, I keep repeating I love you.
Someone had this idea of him recording, and so he asked me if I would go along to help him through it. So, you know, any excuse to be in his presence, quite honestly. And so, you know, I was doing this thing of sort of nudging him when he had to breathe, all that kind of, because he was very nervous about being in a recording studio. It's a bit scary, and it was great.
'Cause you good personality, walk, personality, talk, personality, smile, charm, love, and plus you got a great big heart. Over and over, well I'll be a fool for you. Now over and over, what more can I do? Personality. What more can I do?
Bill Kenwright again.
I can remember saving 1 and 6pence to go and see him at the Liverpool Empire. And I was on the very back row of the circle. And he came on. I was in love with Bobby Darin. And I thought, this guy is as good if he's the English Bobby Darin. You can't put him into any box. He'll suddenly do, my name's Tony Newley, please buy my records, they cost 3 and 6pence. And it comes, and you think, wow, he had that sophistication where he didn't pander to anyone or anything. And that, of course, I'm sure got him into a lot of trouble. I mean, over here, I don't believe he was ever as successful.
The search for more hits led to cover versions of songs recorded by American artists, and very successful they were too. Newley's version of Personality was a bigger hit than Lloyd Price's original, and his next 45 repeated the formula.
When you listen to Frankie Avalon's Why, and Frankie Avalon was huge in America, had this wonderful, dreamy, wonderful hit record. You listen to Newley's, totally different.
I'll never let you go. Why? Because I love you. I'll always love you so. Why? Because you love me. No broken hearts for us, 'cause we love each other. And without faith and trust, there could be no other. Why? 'Cause I love you. Why? 'Cause you love me.
As the 60s dawned, Newley had his first UK #1 with Why. Frankie Avalon's version barely troubled the top 20. So what had started as a novelty was now a full-blown recording career. And as in everything he ever did, Newley brought a unique quality to his work. Don Black.
I think his pop life was more intelligent than Billy Fury and Cliff Richard, with due respect to them. They were definitely pop singers. With him, you always felt there was an actor who was playing a pop singer. It wouldn't have surprised me if he went on to work at the RSC or the National. He could have done that. That was always in him, I felt.
In 1960, Newley was very, very hot. And as today, TV came calling. The result of his collaboration with Morecambe and Wise writers Sid Green and Dick Hills is one of my favourite weird yet kind of cool shows, The Strange World of Gurney Slade.
How can you tell anyone about The Strange World of Gurney Slade? I don't know what it's about and I'm in it. They won't watch it anyway. Nobody watches television now. They just switch it on and use it as a square standard lamp. I should just sit there and stare.
It's a tad difficult to convey what Gurney Slade was all about. How do you explain a show in which Bernie Winters, minus Schnorbitz, came to play a romantic lead? Here's TV expert Dick Fiddy from the British Film Institute to have a crack.
The Strange World of Gurney Slade is a sitcom like no other, certainly for its time. It doesn't take a traditional format at all. In fact, it breaks the format in the opening episode when Gurney Slade walks off. He's an actor who walks off the set of a very anodyne show that he's working on to escape to a fantasy world of his own, a world where he has learned conversations with animals and inanimate objects, machinery, rocks, anything that takes his fancy. And they indulge in some gobbledygook conversations usually, but somewhere beneath it all there's some satirical point to it.
Well, it was a noble effort, wasn't it? You tried, I'll give you that, you tried. But the public is no man's fool, you know. The public knows what it wants. And you had no right to even try and suggest something different. Anyway, the public doesn't like anything suggestive. He thinks you were before your time. Personally, I don't think we're ever going to reach the time that you're in. Of course, I realise that somebody's got to try something new on television. Got to cross new horizons and pioneer new lands and blaze new trails, but you see, they've got all that on Wagon Train. And I will say that to the public. They do know a Flint McCulloch when they see one. But I agreed to go along with you. I didn't have to, but I did. I was beginning to get a nice little name with the public too, you know. My records were beginning to sell like hotcakes. Of course, they didn't taste as good, but they were selling as well. You know, I had them all swinging with songs like, if I sang I love you, do you remember? And I'll never let you go. What? They don't write them like that anymore. Do you remember? But I agreed to go along with you, but just as an experiment. But you come and argue with the public. As a performer, I have a certain duty towards the public. You see? Anyway, I promised that when you went away that I'd do a show in your memory. I think after everything you and I went through together, it's the least I could do. If I could think of anything less to do, I would do it. But anyway, listen, I promised that I would do a show in memory of your passing. And I think I can promise you that it'll be every bit as good as Gurney Slade. If not worse. But wait a minute. I'm not going to do it the way you want it. Oh no. This time we're going to do it the way they want it.
Yeah, well, personally, I quite enjoyed the show.
very weird. I think it broke barriers in some kind of way. I didn't really understand it too much. I loved the music and I loved watching him. But I think you need a psychiatrist would have to kind of work out what the subtext was, you know.
I think viewers were bemused. Perhaps the same sort of bemusement that later they felt with The Prisoner. Here was something that was just not mainstream, but hiding in prime time. And it was ahead of its time, tragically so, I think. Just 5 or 6 years later, and there'd been a completely different story.
One young viewer who's certainly glad he watched Gurney Slade is David Bowie.
It was the television series that made me want to sing like him, not the records. It was very odd. In fact, The Strange World of Gurney Slade was the reason that I liked Tony Newley.
After being a fixture in the top 10 for more than a year, his record label, Decca, were hungry for more hits. Typically, Newley came up with the unexpected.
When someone asked him what was he going to do, they said, I'll do Strawberry Fair. They must have thought he was totally off his rocker. But a great, great record.
Strawberries, ripe strawberries.
I don't remember where that frantic guitars or came from. I don't remember. And we had some very tired guitar players at the end of that session.
Ian Fraser, whose musical relationship with Newley was to span the next 40 years. Having struck gold with Strawberry Fair, Fraser and Newley again raided the traditional songbook. The result, a record that was a junior choice regular on Saturday morning radio when I was a kid.
Half a pound of tuppenny rice, half a pound of treacle. That's the way the money goes. Pop goes the weasel. Yeah.
You know, he would stand at the piano and we'd play around, and, you know, I don't know if this was... That was probably my lick. You know, I just did that. And Newley went, half a pound of tuppenny rice, half a pound of treacle. That's the way the money goes. Pop goes the weasel.
Every night when I go out, the weasel's on the table. Take a stick and knock it off. Pop goes the weasel.
We wrote that whole middle section together. Tony was very loath to give any credit to anybody else on sort of composition. But on that one, I think he published it under the name of George Hackney, which was his father's name was George and he came from Hackney. And I don't know where all that, why did the weasel go, pop, pop, pop goes the weasel. It just sort of developed as we went. The last thing we put in was, excuse me, I'm going to go pop my weasel, the thing at the end. I think that was on the session.
The weasel, pop, 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 goes the weasel, poppity, poppity, pop, goes the weasel now.
Would you excuse me a minute? I'm just going to pop a weasel.
You and I might draw a little comfort from such success, but not Newley.
Like everything, I tended to be a little lackadaisical about it. I covered hits from America, for instance, like Why, when I should really have been writing my own material, or at least have found a partner.
To all the girls I've loved before, who traveled in and out my door, I'm glad they came along. I dedicate this song to all the girls I've loved before, to all the girls I once caressed, and may I say I've held the best, for helping me to grow. I owe a lot, I know, to all the girls I've loved before. The winds of change are always blowing, and every time I try to stay, the winds of change continue blowing, and they just carry me away to all the girls who shared my life, who now are someone else's wife. I'm glad they came along. I dedicate this song to all the girls I've loved
before. The winds of change are always blowing, and every time I try to stay, the winds of change continue blowing, and they just carry me away to all the girls I've loved before, who traveled in and out my door. I'm glad they came along. I dedicate this song to all the girls I've loved before. I've loved before, who traveled in and out my door. I'm glad they came along. I dedicate this song to all the girls I've loved before.
Dave.
Okay.
Can't seem to talk about you very well. Hard to find the colors for your smile. Although you haunt my conscience like a child, hungry in the dark, the lark ascending. Why did we discard our happy ending? I heard you on the radio today. All at once I'm falling back in time. That voice you stole from heaven, though even God forgives you for the crime. They played you on the radio today. I could swear you sang for me alone. What kind of fool would lose you? The greatest love I've known. How strange that we should meet again this way, shaking hands as though we'd never met. I never really wanted to be free. I never really wanted to be free. But you were too much woman for me. They played you on the radio today. I could swear you sang for me alone. What kind of fool would lose you? The greatest love I've known. How strange that we should meet again this way,
shaking hands as though we'd never met. I never really wanted to be free. I never really wanted to be free. But you were too much woman for me.